Welcome back to BrainBlast, the only podcast that brings you mind-blowing facts faster than a cheetah on roller skates. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jordan. Today we are talking about the most intense, the most bonkers, the most out-of-control game of soccer in human history.
We're talking about a soccer match that literally started a war. Wait, seriously? A literal war over kicking a ball into a net?
It sounds totally bananas, I know, but back in 1969, the neighboring countries of El Salvador and Honduras went to war right after a super intense series of soccer matches.
I mean, I've gotten mad when my brother beats me in video games, maybe thrown a controller or two, but a whole war? How does that even happen?
Well, to understand that, we need to put on our historian hats and dive into the real story. Spoiler alert, it wasn't actually just about soccer.
Okay, Jordan, if it wasn't about soccer, what was it about? Who stole whose lunch money?
It was actually about land. Imagine you and I are sharing a giant, delicious pepperoni pizza. El Salvador is a very small country, but they had a huge population. Lots of people, not enough pizza.
Got it. So their stomachs are rumbling. What about Honduras?
Honduras is right next door. They are a much bigger country with a smaller population. Lots of pizza, fewer people eating it. So over time, hundreds of thousands of farmers from El Salvador moved into Honduras to find land to farm and live on.
Makes sense to me. Go where the pizza is.
Right. But eventually, the government of Honduras got worried. They passed a new law in 1962, basically saying, hey, this is our pizza. And they started taking the land back from the Salvadoran farmers and sending them back home.
Uh-oh. So tens of thousands of people are losing their homes and farms? That sounds like a recipe for a massive argument.
Exactly. The two countries were already super angry at each other. They were like a giant powder cake of dynamite just waiting for a spark. And that spark? The 1970 World Cup Qualifiers.
So the mood is already grumpier than a bear waking up from a nap. And then they have to play each other in soccer?
Yep. It was a best-of-3 series. The first game was in Honduras. And get this. The night before the game, Honduran fans surrounded the Salvadoran team's hotel and played loud music, banged drums, and honked horns all night so the players couldn't sleep.
Whoa, that is some intense cheating. Did it work?
It did. Honduras won the first game 1-0. But Game 2 was in El Salvador, and the Salvadoran fans decided to get payback. They did the exact same thing to the Honduran team, but even worse. They broke windows and threw rotten eggs. El Salvador won that game 3-0.
So they're tied 1-1. The tension must have been off the charts.
Oh, it was boiling over. They had to play the final tiebreaker match in a neutral country, Mexico. On June 26, 1969, El Salvador won the game 3-2 in extra time. But by then, the fans were rioting, and the two countries completely broke off their friendship.
So wait, El Salvador won the game. When does the actual war part happen?
Just a couple of weeks later, on July 14, 1969, El Salvador's military actually crossed the border into Honduras, and airplanes started dropping bombs. The football war had officially begun.
That is wild and terrible. How long did this war last?
Well, history gave it a very catchy name, the 100-Hour War, because it literally only lasted about 4 days.
4 days? That's shorter than my school week. How did it stop so fast?
An international group called the Organization of American States, or OAS, stepped in like a giant angry referee. They blew the whistle, threatened economic timeouts, and forced both sides to stop fighting and pull back.
Wow. So to sum it up for our BrainBlast listeners, soccer didn't really start the war. The fight over land and jobs did. Soccer was just the match that lit the dynamite.
Spot on, Alex. The 100-Hour War proves that sports can bring out the absolute craziest emotions in people. Always remember to be a good sport, folks.
And maybe share your pizza. Thanks for tuning in to BrainBlast. Keep your brains blasting and your soccer friendly.